Will be a YouTube only show again tonight. Alrighty. There. We'll just tweet it out later, I guess. Welcome in, everyone, to this episode of the Batfoot Podcast. My name is Damien, here with David and Matt, and today we're going to be bringing you a standings update and then talking about what these fringe, wild card contenders need to do to, solidify their spot or get into the wild card spots, and then what the top teams need to do to help their seeding and basically have the best spot going into the playoffs. But before we get into all that, Matt, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good. Had a solid week. Not necessarily on the baseball front, but everything else has been good. I enjoyed watching the Olympics some. That was a lot of fun. So at least I was able to get my mind off the Braves a little bit when they decided to get swept by the Brewers and get absolutely embarrassed by the Rockies. So yeah, it's that part's been bad, but everything else has been good for me. So how are you doing, David?
I'm doing good. Like yesterday, I decided to play college football and hang out with my girlfriend, making some delicious cake instead of watching the NASCAR race, and I made a fantastic decision. Um, Honestly, maybe not. I heard it was actually pretty good before the last lap, but there've been some major shenanigans over there in NASCAR. So I feel like if this were a NASCAR podcast, we could fill the whole hour talking about what went down yesterday.
Yeah.
But we'll dodge that for now. I'm sure you'll see our thoughts about it on Twitter and stuff. And baseball wise, I have actually been quite enjoying my little team over here. And next week I will be live from San Francisco. We'll be in Oracle Park next week, so that should be a fun little time. Got to finally go on a vacation here, so get to go check another stadium off my list, and hopefully Oracle Park's pretty cool for me. And they're playing the White Sox. It should be kind of a cheap game to get into, but maybe a fun one to go experience the park. So, how you doing, Damien?
Well, to be fair, you will not be live on the show from Oracle.
Yes.
Don't expect to see David breaking down play-by-play from Oracle Park there. Not that we would want play-by-play of White Sox baseball anyways. But today is a great day because it's Happy Marcus Lynn Betts is back playing baseball day. So how can anyone not be excited about that? But yeah, I mean, it's been a good week. We Dodgers played the Phillies and that was a little tough series, but then we got to rebound with the sweep over the Pirates, so made it feel better heading into the pivotal stretch here. But overall, like you said, that race last night was it was really good, and then it wasn't, and then it was incredibly funny just watching the aftermath of that. So all in all, really funny.
Hey, Damien, I got a question for you.
Shoot.
So you mentioned Mookie Betts being back. Why is he scared of ghosts?
I mean, why wouldn't you not be scared of ghosts? All right. So for anyone that doesn't know this topic, apparently in Milwaukee, there's a haunted hotel that the teams always decide for some reason to stay at. And Mookie Betts rents an Airbnb every time they go to Milwaukee. He refuses to stay at the team hotel, which is incredibly funny. But did you guys see the Michael Young story that somebody brought up again today? Because I never saw it until today. And after this, we'll move right on real quick. But apparently Michael Young, I think it was when he was with the Dodgers, I could be wrong, said that, he had heard the stories about that all the time, about that hotel, but did not ever believe it. He said one night he was sleeping in the hotel and he heard something, and he swears it was somebody walking around in his room, and it woke him up. And he literally yelled "Look, man, I'm good with you being here and all, but can you just not wake me up? Do whatever you got to do. Marinate in here. Just leave me alone and don't wake me up." He's and he never heard anything for the rest of the night. And the rest of the trip, he was perfectly fine. So he's as long as the ghosts know you're welcoming, they'll be fine with you. And I thought that was incredibly funny. So anyways, let's get off the ghost stories here. And let's we'll go division by division. With the standings here, we'll break them down a little bit, and then what we're going to do is we're going to kind of give you guys each one a reason why, we think this team needs what they need to do to solidify their spot or move on, and And as we're going by division, we'll kind of wrap up the wild card race here too. But let's go ahead and start in the National League West. That's just because it's top right here. So we have the Dodgers still leading this division. We have Arizona 3.5 games back, tied with the Padres that are also 3.5 games back. The San Francisco Giants, they are 9 games back, and then the Rockies are 44 and 75. And obviously, all of this is as of August 11th, technically. So, overall the division, the Dodgers leading, Diamondbacks, Padres fighting for the wild card, Giants on the outside looking in. David, what do these teams got to do to solidify getting into wild card, or in the Dodgers case, battle for that number 1 seed here?
I'll fire off with the Dodgers. You already said it. They got to get Mookie Betts healthy. They got to get that lineup complete. The Dodgers lineup kind of looks very similar to the Yankees lineup right now, in that there's like a couple of stars at the top, and then it's kind of weak after that. Like Will Smith's been pretty bad lately. You got to get Mookie Betts in there, balance this thing out, get everybody back where it's not just pitch around Shohei, pitch around Freddie. Get that extra thumper in the lineup that can really put the fear of God into these pitchers. That's kind of the easy solution for me. They also need to stay healthy, right? River Ryan just went down for the rest of the season with an elbow injury. I assume that just means Bobby Miller will be back up. So I would say the key is finding that someone in that rotation spot to, pitch well. Because if I look at the Dodgers total team pitching right now, it's 14th in baseball in WAR. Dodgers pitching has not been as good as in years past. So the Dodgers need to keep everyone healthy there.
Yeah, and far as that, real quick before we jump to Matt, Muncy and Tommy Edman are supposed to be back next week, and Walker Buehler's coming back on Wednesday.
There you go.
So they are on the train of getting healthy. But Matt, go ahead.
For the Dodgers or D-backs?
I mean, say what do you want for the Dodgers, I guess, real quick. We're just jumping real over.
Or did Matt leave us?
Matt,
or are you muted?
I'm talking while muted.
Oh, perfect.
There you go.
So for the Dodgers, my thing was, that they're basically a lock for the playoffs, and they're very likely to win their division, although it is kind of close now. They've only got a 3.5 game lead over 2 different teams, so who are playing very well. But my thing, as David mentioned, who can be healthy enough for Game 3 in a playoff series, or just pitching depth in general in the rotation? Because right now you've got, can Kershaw, Yamamoto, or Buehler be that guy, or can Bobby Miller come back up and figure it out?
Yeah.
I think those are the things that if you can figure out that third starter, that was their downfall last year, was the pitching rotation fell apart with all the injuries. If they can have somebody figure that out, then I think the offense will be fine, because they're gonna get healthy. I mean, it's not like Mookie Betts had some weird injury that was like gonna be long term. Like, he's probably gonna be fine when he gets back here, I guess tonight. So and everyone else is generally fairly healthy in their lineup right now. Muncy will come back soon, so I think it's that pitching rotation.
Yeah. So the team that's made the recent surge the most has been the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think they were at one point close to 6-7 games back here, and they've made the surge up to 3.5 games. They've been 8-2 in their last 10 games here, tied with the Padres here. So Matt, what do you think that the Diamondbacks have to do to either make a run for this division or help solidify their spot in the wild card race?
Yeah, well, my key for this team has been all year Corbin Carroll. Corbin Carroll for the first half of the season was legitimately bad at the plate, and honestly, for as athletic as he is, he wasn't performing all that well defensively either. He was a pretty big negative as a player for the first half of the season, aside from base running. An 80 WRC plus in the first half. But in the month of July and August, or in the second half of the season, he has a 154 WRC plus, and that has directly coincided with the Diamondbacks surging. So if Corbin Carroll can continue to be the Corbin Carroll we've seen over the last couple of months, and the Corbin Carroll we saw last year, then I think Arizona's in a pretty good position. I think they'll continue to pitch a little bit better. And I like their lineup pretty well. I think it's mainly just that Corbin Carroll keeping what he's doing now and not having more shoulder problems. And, looking at them as they've got about 80%, 85% division playoff odds at this point. So I'm looking at them as a very likely playoff team, backing up there last year, being a wild card and going to the World Series.
Yeah, I like that. My note is that the Diamondbacks have the second best offense in baseball by WAR, which is a product of I think some guys platooning really well. I think Torey Lovella is doing a great job keeping the right guys in the lineup per day to take advantage of the matchups. They've got a bunch of guys who hit really well against one side. Grichuk, Peterson, to name a couple, right? They can just swap out whichever handed pitcher it is going against them. And they're very effective. The guy I'm pointing at as the key to the Diamondbacks both success the rest of the way and the postseason success is Jordan Montgomery. If they can get 2023 Jordan Montgomery in this team the rest of the way, this is a World Series favorite type of team. They're hitting as well as anybody in baseball. Zach Gallen keeps getting hurt, and he's the ace, but Brandon Fott's pitching well. Merrill Kelly should be back before the end of the season. They can be there, but they got to have the anchor. Jordan Montgomery was the anchor for the Rangers last year. He's got to be the anchor again for the Diamondbacks this year, and he hasn't been to this point. He's got a 6 ERA. If Jordan Montgomery can get back, that's my team. That's my guy that can lead this Diamondbacks team into a postseason run.
Good call, David. I like that.
Yeah. So Merrill Kelly came back this weekend,
Yeah,
actually.
that
So
was
Right.
he's
He's
already back.
already back. There you go.
But the guy they do need to get back is Eduardo Rodriguez. He has not pitched for them all year long. And Christian Walker, because the pickup of Josh Bell has been huge for them. While Walker's been out, he's been actually crushing the ball. But you want a guy like Christian Walker in that lineup every day. So next, we'll move on to the San Diego Padres, who, like we mentioned, they're tied there with the Diamondbacks, 3.5 games back. They've also been 8-2 in their last 10. If you were watching this weekend, they could have been 9-1, depending on how you thought of the Ha-Seong Kim ground rule double. That should have, I don't know. Anyways, they are 4 games up in the wild card race as well. So, David, what do you think for the Padres that they need to do to help their spot?
Yeah, just based on how things are going right now for the Padres, they've got a lot of stuff clicking right now, right? I mean, Matt Waldron's been very good. He had a bad start this week, but overall in this season, I mean, what a great pickup for this team. A guy who can just spot in a knuckleball at 40% of the time, and nobody else does that in major leagues. So there's very little familiarity with it, and he's been able to pitch himself to 132 innings so far. He's one of their best pitchers. But I'm looking at Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove. Musgrove coming back from injury this week. Darvish is out with a personal issue. I think someone in his family is sick. I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows the exact details, but I think he's dealing with a very sick family member close to him. It's the kind of guy that you just don't want to see that happen to. And if either Joe Musgrove or Yu Darvish can get back to a semblance of their really, really good selves, this Padres team can very well make the run. I mean, you want to see a little more from some other guys, and Matt may be jumping on that bandwagon here, but my thing is if they can get that fourth starter that can push Waldron back to game 4 in the playoffs, because right now, I mean, Dylan Cease, Michael King look really good as 1 and 2. They're pitching very, very well right now. They've each got ERA right at 3.3, 3.4. You just need that one extra starter, and I think the Padres can do it, but make some noise, especially into the playoff series. But they got to get their other guys back.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, David. That's the same thing I had. Was Musgrove and Darvish, can they get back and can they be effective when they get back? Because before Musgrove got hurt, and he might have been pitching through some form of injury, but he was really bad before he got hurt, and Darvish was good before he got hurt, but he's been out a while, and we don't know for sure if he's gonna come back. So that's kind of the big thing for me as well. The other thing I guess to add is just they have a lot of they've got a little bit of a no-name bullpen that is very, very good this year. But with the exception of Tanner Scott, who's now with the Padres, a lot of these guys lack a little bit of postseason experience. What Robert Suarez also has it, but Adrian Morejon has been one of their top relievers. Jeremiah Estrada, Yuki Matsui. These are some guys. Johnny Brito. These are guys who have been really, really, really good this year, but they do lack a little bit of late season experience. That could be a pretty big deal with bullpens. So. We'll see if they're able to hold up, but if they can get those pitchers back and that bullpen holds up, I think this team they feel a little bit like a team of destiny right now. They've been winning all these close games, big clutch moments. They've seemed to be kind of rolling right now.
Sorry, Damien.
Sorry, Damien.
Yeah. Well, and the crazy part is they don't even have Fernando Tatis Jr. right now.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even have a clear timetable. So, if it's anything for me, I think it's getting Fernando
Yeah.
Tatis Jr. back because he's a game changer in the lineup. I mean, right now it's like David Peralta's replacing him.
Yep.
If you add Tatis back into that lineup, like I don't care if you're going in like C. Waldron and King as your 3 starters because you're going to score like 7 runs anyways.
Yep.
Like and that bullpen, they can just shorten it anyways. Even they, with not having postseason experience, all of those guys are very very good. So I think they're going to mix and match the pin and starters just find it as if they can get a guy like Tatis, who we know is an MVP level caliber player. That's a big addition to that one.
Yeah. One last thing before we move on. If I just want to shout out Jurickson Profar one more time. He's still got a 153 WRC plus, so shout out to him. That's just incredible, and what a turnaround he's had, and that's a big part of their success too.
My shout is Jackson Merrill. Insane
awesome
production
too.
as a rookie
Yeah.
in center field.
My shout is nobody because I don't like them. Let's go from one team I don't like to another team I don't like in the San Francisco.
But which team do you like less?
The Giants. If that one's clear,
Absolutely.
That's like asking a Yankees
that answers
fan
the
who they like
that answers the age-old question: who's the real rival of the Dodgers?
Listen, I hate to think the Padres are not a rival yet. They're not a rival yet. Okay, the Giants are. Padres not yet. Give it like another 3 years. Okay, but let's talk about the Giants because we all laughed at them a little bit here at the deadline. Hey, you should have traded this guy. You should have traded this guy. Well, they've got Blake Snell back. They've got Robbie Ray back, and they've went on a run of 7-3 over their last 10 as well. I don't think they're going to be in the division race. There's still 9 games back there, but they have vaulted up to only a game and a half out of the wild card here. So what do the Giants need to do or continue doing to help get them into that wild card race, Matt?
So I think the big thing is, they've got about 16% playoff odds on Fangraphs, so it's going to take a lot. But I didn't realize they have actually been an above-average team at the plate this year, which is a little bit better than I thought they had been. The pitching has been rough, and they've got Logan Webb and Blake Snell, who's been awesome lately at the top of their rotation. But when you get beyond that, you've got Ryan Walker's been really good at their bullpen, but like Camilo Doval's in AAA. I mean, what in the world? And then, the depth. I mean, Kyle Harrison's been pretty good, but Jordan Hicks has fallen off after that really, really good start to the season. He's still been fine for the year as a whole, but he's fallen off some. You got, and then beyond that, you just don't have a lot of guys. You got like Eric Miller's been a spot starter for them, hadn't been super good. You've got, I mean, Mason Black started games. Hayden Birdsong started a bunch of games. I mean, you've got a lot of guys who, have the depth is just not quite there. And then of course they got to have people hit too. I mean, they just don't have a ton of upside. I think they kind of are what we expected them to be, and they need somebody to just get really hot at the plate and carry them, or they need some pitchers to step up. And I wanted to put the pitching depth on there. And can Camilo Doval actually get back from AAA? I mean, his metrics aren't that bad, but he had like a 4.70 ERA and seemed to just be kind of losing it lately. He's been walking tons of guys. Like, they need to get him back to being a guy again.
Yeah.
My task for the Giants would be call up some young arms. Try to trust the young guys here. Carson Whisenhunt hasn't made the majors yet. Put him in there, right? Give Kyle Harrison the ball more here, and I mean, they can't really necessarily for Harrison, but find some more young guys. Throw out some extra youth in here because this Giants pitching staff is 27th in baseball and wins above replacement. They have been a abysmal pitching staff. Find something, right? We talked about Luciano coming up to replace Soler. That's kind of the move in the right direction, but they got to inject some energy into this team, and it seems to be working. The trade deadline hasn't shown them as sellers, right? They're above 500. They have a chance for the wild card. This is maybe the first team that I would say I don't love their chances to get in here.
Yeah.
Just not necessarily because they can't do it. It's more that they are going to struggle to continue playing well into so many teams. We're going to talk about this whole National League. We're going to talk about all these teams. They are all right at 500 or a couple games over, and they're all fighting for 1 or 2 wild card spots. It is going to take a Herculean effort. I don't know if this Giants team has it, but I think they need to inject some youth. And hey, shout out Matt Chapman, 4 wins above replacement on the season. He has been really, really remarkably good. It turned around right when we did that free agent talk about him and said he's been a little disappointing at hit home runs. He's like at 19 home runs now. He's having an insane season. He's going to get paid.
I think he should give us a cut of his
Yeah,
next
I think
paycheck
so.
because of
Scott Boras might not like that though after the way we
yeah. Well,
bashed him.
we rescued him when Scott Boras tried to destroy him. So
That is true. Real quick, I just think that they just need to continue doing what they're doing. I think the energy, David, you're talking about, it's getting Blake Snell back, who's been pitching like the Cy Young winner of last year. They got Robbie Ray, who's actually pitched really well as well too. Hayden Birdsong's done pretty decent. I think if you just get those three at the top with Logan Webb, Snell, and Ray, and then the younger guys just going in there and getting some experience right now, like you're on the run. I think you just got to continue doing what you're doing and hope that it pays off. Yeah. And if it doesn't, then you just regroup for next year.
Last note on the Giants, they have the second most difficult remaining schedule of the wild card contenders, so it's going to be tough for them to really overcome that. They need to figure out a way to beat some good teams too here.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump over to the National League East now, where we have the Phillies leading this at 69-49. They have the Atlanta Braves behind them at 61-56, 7.5 games back. The Mets at 61-57, 8 games back. And then the Nats and the Marlins, 15.5 and 25.5 respectively. But let's talk about the top three here: the Phillies, the Braves, and the Mets. David, what do you think that the Phillies need to do to help? They're in that battle for that number one seed at the moment.
Stay the course. Change nothing. That's what I think the Phillies need to do. They are. This is a really complete team. It's a we talk about it every time. Great group of guys. They all believe in each other. They've had postseason success. They haven't yet managed to hit the big one, but this has been their strongest regular season yet, combined, of course, with their best pitching staff yet, where they've gotten Nola and Wheeler some help. And Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez have been very, very capable starting pitchers on top to give. I think it's the best pitching staff in Major League Baseball right now. So
I think it is
by WAR specifically. So this group just needs to hold the course, stay committed. Right, they'll get there. I think there's almost nothing that we can point as like a negative or a weakness. Like even the guys like Castellanos are still performing as much as they need to buoy the rest of the team. They're 70-game winners. They just got caught by the Dodgers for best record, and I don't know that that's going to be a big deal. I think they're going to pull away here and win the NL East. It's just a matter of getting into the playoffs and maintaining that hot streak all the way through September.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too many bad things to say about the Phillies right now. They're playing extremely well. Maybe a couple of guys in their lineup, maybe JT Realmuto could really get going a little bit. He's only got a 91 WRC plus on the season. But the thing I had put down was just, some of the top names in their bullpen from the last couple of years haven't performed at the same level. The guys who have performed have been like Jeff Hoffman and Matt Strahm and Orion Kirkring. They could use like Jose Alvarado to kind of pick it up a little bit. He's only got a 4.53 ERA, hadn't been great this year. So some of that, just high end back into the bullpen, high end, high leverage arms. I think maybe if one more of them might need to step up, but that's really all I can think of. I mean, this team right now is very good, and also to stay healthy, because this is an organization that has zero depth outside of their in their rotation. Like, and once you get beyond those guys, it's calling up somebody from AAA who's not good. So that's another thing. And these guys are guys who have pitched a lot of innings too. Aaron Nola's at 150, Zach Wheeler's at 140, and they've still got a couple months to go. So, but this team right now is extremely good. I don't see them falling behind or anything at this point, and especially in this division, which we'll get to their challengers here that are pretty bad. So
yeah, if anything, I think the thing they need to do is get Bryce Harper going again. If you look since July 1st, Bryce Harper has a 215 batting average and a 294 on base for a 96 WRC plus. You just got to figure out and get Bryce going. I mean, every superstar goes through these lulls at times, but that's what's allowed other teams to help catch them for this number one seed race in the National League right now. You just got to get Bryce Harper going again. He changes the dynamic of this whole team. And you could tell, like, I just watched him play 3 games against the Dodgers. You can tell he's just visibly not happy playing baseball right now. He's completely out of it, and he's the energy tone setter for that team. And when others can see that, I think it hurts the overall morale there. They're still playing decently, fine, but they're a different team when Bryce Harper's playing well, and he brings the energy there. So that's what I would say. So let's jump over to Matt's Atlanta Braves now. Like I said, they're 7.5 games back there in the division, but they are in the last wild card spot, half game above the Mets. So Matt, what do your Braves need?
Well, the Braves need a lot. Everything right now is a mess. They've lost 6 of their last 7 games. And they not in the last 2 out of 3 against the Rockies, and 2 of them in just a totally embarrassing fashion yesterday. They had an 8-2 lead late in the game and they lost. This team's the offense has been bad all year. They have all these injuries, and the pitching really lately has in the second half has been bad. They keep giving guys a lot of extra days of rest in the rotation, and that's something they could probably change. But at this point, you almost feel like they probably just need to make sure that Chris Sale is ready to go next year. But anyways, the thing I had, they still do have 62% playoff odds, down from 99% preseason, and 9% division odds. So the division's not entirely lost. The Phillies have struggled a little bit lately, so they could go on a run theoretically. But I think the biggest thing the Braves need is for Harris and Ozzy Albies to return. Michael Harris is supposed to return Wednesday, and they just need those guys to return and hit, because those 2 positions, second base since Ozzy went down, and center field really all year, but with Harris down especially, have just been absolute complete total black holes for this team. And I mean, they're running out Whit Merrifield and Ramon Laureano in those 2 positions right now, who have been DFA'd by multiple teams this year. And they've got to get that depth back in the lineup. I think the pitching will figure it out. They have like a 420 BABIP against in the second half, but those are the 2 keys. If they can get Harris back and Ozzy Albies back and not have more injuries, then they could. I think they'll still make the playoffs if those guys come back and perform. So that's kind of where we're at here.
Yeah, my key on the Braves is what Matt Olson and Austin Riley have got to be better, right? Those guys were MVP candidates preseason, and Matt Olson was what, 3rd in the MVP last year,
Yeah.
2nd. Like Matt, he's got a 102 WRC plus. He's only got 20 home runs. Matt Olson's got to be better if this Braves team wants to contend, right? The pitching staff's 3rd in Major League Baseball in WAR. They've had a rough stretch here of late. It coincided with Reynaldo Lopez going down. He's been a revelation in terms of recruiting a reliever and turning him into a starter with good stuff. Like it's worked super well, better than I think any of us could have anticipated. But he's down right now with a forearm. Like the pitching is always okay, but the Braves, again, they did trade a lot of that depth to go out there and acquire what they felt like were the necessary pieces. And it's, Chris Sale's been great, but the offense has not been able to contribute the same as their pitching acquisitions. And, as much as I actually like this pitching staff right now, I think it's a lot better than Matt's saying. It is in a rough patch. It's this offense, right? It's the fact that Austin Riley's got a 122 WRC plus when he's had a 150 last year, and Matt Olson's at a 102 when he was an MVP candidate with 50 home runs last year. Those guys have to be better.
Yeah, I want to shout out one more guy, and Spencer Schwellenbach. He's a rookie
he's been
has
great.
been really, really, really good. His stuff's ticked up this year. He's getting tons of swing and miss, and he's really been an anchor for the Braves rotation. When lately it's been, they're pitching like 8 different guys in their rotation right now. So, but Spencer Schwellenbach has been awesome, and he's definitely somebody to watch out for in the future too.
Yeah, so as far as I think the main thing for the Braves team right now is the offense. You mentioned getting Albies and Michael Harris back, who should be back Wednesday. And even Austin Riley, you guys mentioned that since July 1st, he has a 149 WRC.
Yeah, he's been really good since the first couple months.
He's started to look really good again. But like David mentioned, it's Matt Olson who has it since July 1st or June 1st actually, a 99 WRC plus. And Sean Murphy, who is about, he had almost a career year last year, and he's down under a league average hitter right now, and since July 1st is barely above league average. You need those two to pick it up, especially with the loss of Acuna and missing Harris and missing Albies, you got to have your other guys step up. I think Solaire's been a great pickup for them so far. He's been mashing. You still have Ozuna mashing. If you get those other guys back in Harris and Albies performing the way they do, Murphy and Olsen can pick it up again. This Braves team will be the same Braves team we pretty much know, offensively at least. And then it's just about the pitching staff, what they can bring at that point. So let's talk about the New York Mets, who I mentioned are only a half game back of the Atlanta Braves in the wild card race, 8 games back in this division. So, David, what do you think that the Mets need to do to jump into that wild card race?
Yeah, if there's a team that I just do not believe in, I think it's the Mets. In this group, right? Like the Mets have kind of floated here on hopes and dreams. It almost feels like. I'm not entirely. You kind of look through their team; it's not entirely special. Mark Vientos has had a really good season. The pitching staff's definitely dealt with its fair share of injuries, right? I mean, I think already Kodai Senga's out for the rest of the year. Like, this is a group that's being held together by Luis Severino and Sean Manaea. They are going to need maybe to pull up Brandon Sproat to try and galvanize this pitching staff to finish off the season strong. They need Christian Scott to be better than he has been. I'm saying that this pitching will not hold up other than if they can get some contributions from some young guys. If there's one thing the Mets need, it's going to be pitching down the stretch, because right now I do not see a playoff rotation here when I look at the Mets.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you, David. I same thing. Sean Manaea has been good this year, but Luis Severino's really fallen off since a pretty good start. And other than that, I mean, the one guy that maybe you could point to, Paul Blackburn, is a guy they acquired at the deadline. He's only made a couple starts there. Can he kind of be a legitimate, like, steady rotation arm? Because if he is, then you've got him and Manaea, and Severino's all right, and you can figure out some things between those guys. And the offense has been pretty good for them, especially Francisco Lindor is having a fantastic season. So, and Mark Vientos, as you mentioned, is having a really good season too. So, if the lineup's fairly deep, they're hitting well. It's just a matter of that pitching. I mean, I had wrote down it's the 28th ranked pitching staff in baseball by WAR. They've got to be better over these last couple of months. And if the pitching staff is, top 20, I think this team could maybe sneak into the back of the playoffs, but they're going to really need to improve from what they are right now.
Yeah, I think you guys mentioned everything there. I don't think they're a team that give me a ton of confidence, and their pitching doesn't give me a ton of confidence in itself. And the offense, they need Lindor to keep stepping up. They need Nimmo and Vientos to be what they are, but they also need Pete to get back to Pete Alonso type things. And then they need, the rest of those guys to kind of step up too if they really, really want a shot to jump into that wild card spot. Now let's talk about the National League Central, where we have the Milwaukee Brewers leading it at 67-50. You got the Cardinals 7.5 games back of them. You got the Cubs 9 games back, the Cincinnati Reds 10.5 games back, and the Pirates 11 games back. The Reds and the Pirates, they're 4.5, 5 games out of the wild card, but they still have to jump so many teams. It would just be, they would need a lot of luck to go their way to do that. So we'll really talk about the 3 main teams here between the Brewers, Cardinals, and the Cubs. The Brewers, they've gone 6-4 over their last 10. They are, what are they like? 2 games back of that number 1 seed at the moment. Playing a big 4-game series with the Dodgers this week. So, Matt, what do the Brewers need to do to, help? They're already solidified, really, I feel like, in the division.
Yeah.
But to kind of make a run for that number 1 seed in the National League here.
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, one thing is Christian Yelich being healthy. He has a 153 WRC plus this year, so if he's healthy, then that's a big deal. He's only played 73 games, but the main thing I had put down was just this team has, pitching wise, is held together by Tobias Myers, who has a 2.79 ERA in 93 innings and 17 starts, and Colin Ray, who has a 3.38 ERA in 19 starts and 122 innings. So
Cubs legend.
Yeah, so he's a legend of a bunch of different teams because he never stuck around somewhere very long. But those 2 guys have been very, very, very good for them. And the metrics back up that they're better pitchers than we might have expected them to, but they do not back up the results they've gotten. So um, they're going to need those two guys to continue to be successful in the same way that they have. And if they aren't, maybe an Aaron Savali who's struggled since he came over will step up or something. But they need those two guys to continue to be there, because if the bullpen is really good, especially with Devin Williams back. And the lineup has been awesome all year. I mean, Willie Adames has been really good. William Contreras, of course. Yelich has been awesome when he's been healthy. Jackson Churrio's really turned it on in the second half. The lineup's been awesome. So they just need those two pitchers to keep doing what they've been doing, and to scratch together that starting rotation. And if they can, then this team is, I mean, they're close to a lock for the playoffs, 93% playoff odds and a 91% division odds. I mean, I feel really good about the Brewers. And I think a deeper postseason series, if they can win that bye, that 5-game series might favor them more than the 3-game series where they might run into like 2 aces and be done.
Yeah.
So I really like what I see from the Brewers right now, and feel like they could be a player down the stretch here.
My guy here is Jackson Chourio. I think that could be, he is 20 years old. That could be the key. It got a 157 WRC plus over the last month. He's got 5 homers, 6 stolen bases. It's taken his season line from a sub league average, kind of middling type of line to above average, multiple, 2+ WAR, really justifying that contract. And the Brewers obviously believe in Jackson Chourio enough to have given him that contract originally anyway. It's very, very easy to see that, with the season line at 106 WRC plus, 2.2 WAR, like if he can keep up this 150 WRC plus recency, he's going to be the reason this team is a danger in the playoffs, I think. And Matt hit the rest of them on the head, but pointing out Chourio because that's they've nailed that one.
Yeah, I mean, you guys hit pretty much everything here on the head with the Brewers. You mentioned Chourio. I didn't realize like how good he'd technically been in the second half, or really ever since June.
Yeah.
If you actually I know the WRC plus isn't all that similar, but his stats compared to Jackson Merrill's are pretty dang close still too. Like this rookie of the year race between him, Skeens, and Merrill might be really interesting going down the stretch.
You missed a very important name there. It's okay.
What?
We'll talk about him in a minute. Michael Busch.
Oh, well,
he's been better than all of these guys in terms of offense.
No.
He doesn't play center field, though.
Yeah,
he's definitely been better than
Paul. That's what I was going to say.
He's got more WAR than all of them. He's at 3 WAR.
Let's calm down on the Cubs. Cubs good talk here. But we will talk about the Cubs right now because they have been on fire recently. They are 59-60. I think they're winning right now still, so they should.
No, they got blown out. Stephen Kwan and Johnsky Knoll happened. So
I don't even know that second name, so bless you. But they are I guess we'll say 7-3 in their last 10 now. Apparently, it was 8-2 going into this episode. They were still 9 games back in the division, but they had made a run recently into the wild card race, being 3 games out. I think if you had asked us a few weeks ago, we wouldn't have thought that. Their deadline allowed them, picking up Paredes and some other guys there, brought them kind of right back into the fold. So, David, what do you think the Cubs need to do here to push for this wild card spot?
It's the Cubs have absolutely got to take advantage of their schedule here. They've got the easiest schedule of any of the teams. Matt mentioned it with regards to the Giants having a difficult strength of schedule left. Cubs have a very easy strength of schedule left, right? They're playing the Guardians right now, losing a couple games in this series. Not really a big deal, I don't think, but they just swept the White Sox in 2 games. They've got to continue to do that. Come out, play complete games. We've seen this team come out and lay complete duds when they should be going after pitchers. It's very specific without mentioning a player, because it's like the whole team just kind of forgets how to play occasionally, which is kind of why this team where before the season, we had playoff aspirations and all this stuff, and now you're fighting and clawing to get back to playoff odds like that are not, single digits. This team has got to come out every day, take advantage of the schedule, get to 85 wins or so at the end of the year. It's a little bit of a cop out. I mean, but it is exactly what they have to do here is, play those, take a huge advantage of the schedule and win a lot of these winnable games and don't lose to pitchers that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it's just for the Cubs. I mean, who can step up in the bullpen? I mean, that's been a
It's a
problem
good
for
one.
them. Been a problem for them all year. And then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, David, but I saw where Ben Brown got hurt.
He is out for the season
Yep.
now. They've shut him
And
down, and Cade Horton's been shut down too.
yeah,
And Jordan Wicks is rehabbing, and it's not going
right,
great. He's kind of looking bad.
right. And I mean, they traded their best reliever at the deadline. So
Who gave up 2 home runs the other day? Maybe Jed
yeah,
knows
but
something I don't.
well, maybe, but
Probably not.
still, I mean, he'd been their best reliever. So whether
Mhm.
he starts being bad or getting traded, they got to figure out a way to replace that production. So I mean, they've
The
had some good pickups, and like Tyson Miller and
Mhm.
Porter Hodge has been good for them, but like they really need Jorge Lopez somehow has been really good, although the metrics don't
they
especially like what he's done, even though he's got a .51 ERA. I don't know if he'll keep that up, but they
he
just got to,
looks better than he
yeah,
did right when they got him. Whatever they've done to Jorge Lopez,
yeah,
that's working. I think
yep,
he's added like 3 miles an hour on his fastball, and they've ticked up the usage. He's throwing 96 now. He wasn't doing that with the Mets.
yep. But
So
when,
whatever.
David Bodie and Patrick Wisdom have a better, they have the same WAR or better WAR than Drew Smiley, Kyle Hendricks, Hector Neris. I mean, as pitchers, you know, you got
Yeah,
you got a little bit of a problem. So I think the big thing for me is just the bullpen, and I mean they've got names, they've got guys who are
well,
performing okay too. They just need to find a couple guys who can really be back late game back end guys, because that's been
yes.
a problem for them all year. So
I think Porter might be that guy. The Cubs
he
also
could.
just got to within when they were down 8-3. Now it's 8-7. So, well, what do you know? Maybe it'll happen.
We'll see.
So for the Cubs, my one thing they have to do to make a run for the playoffs here is give Nick Madrigal more playing time.
You think? I don't think that's the problem, Damien.
I think they need to replace that bum of a third baseman they just traded for. I'm just kidding. If you're new here, I'm a notorious Nick Madrigal stan. Okay, that's all a joke.
He
Um,
bought a Nick Madrigal jersey, a custom made jersey
what-
when we came to Wrigley Field.
Oh
what
my
can I
God.
say? I'm a stan. Okay. I think the one thing that it really comes down to me is that they just need their players, their superstars, to play that way.
Mhm.
David and I was talking before the show. Cody Bellinger came back the day of the trade deadline, and he's had a 177 WRC plus for that. Now he's not going to keep that up. He's not going to keep hitting 360. But what it's showing us is that he looks like Cody Bellinger should look. He's taking the pitches he should be taking. He's driving the pitches he should be driving. He just looks like he was playing injured for a while, right? Which we know the Cubs have a notorious thing of playing injured players. It's been a thing for years. I think they just need Bellinger and their other players, like say Ian Happ. You need them to keep playing that way, and getting Bellinger back playing at this kind of a level. You need somebody to help continue this run, and they got to take advantage of their schedule right now. Because like I did mention, they are 3.5 games back at the wild card there. They still have a couple teams to jump, but you have to take advantage of that at the moment.
Yep, absolutely.
So, let's jump over to the American League East now, where we
missed the
We
missed the
did
game.
skip the Cardinals. I'm not complaining, but we did skip the Cardinals.
I thought we did.
We didn't do the Cardinals, but
Well,
Speed
Uh,
Cardinal.
the Cardinals, who
Cardinals.
are better than the Cubs right now. Sorry, David. But
Yeah,
real quick on the
we'll fix
Cardinals,
that. Don't worry.
there's not that much. I mean, their run differential is absolutely atrocious. They're 60 and 58. They've got about 14% playoff odds on Fangraphs, and my one thing for them was just, they need one last, like, they got two veteran players who are struggling. They need one last good push from Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, who have both been pretty mediocre all year, especially Goldschmidt. I mean, Arenado at the plate's been about average, and he still defends pretty well, but Goldschmidt has been pretty rough all year. He's got a 94 WRC plus, I believe. And he's got a sub 300 on base percentage, which is really bad. .4 WAR. And they need those two guys to step it up. And if they do, maybe they can make one last run at the playoffs. But if they don't, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. So, I'm not a huge believer in this team right now, but they do still have a chance, I guess.
My key here is that the Cardinals just recalled Jordan Walker back up.
Oh boy.
They need him to hit. They need him to be the prospect that he was drafted as and was performing as when they vaulted him up into the top 10 of prospect lists. That you got to get the guy that you were anticipating back when you called him up originally. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I'm with you on
He's
that.
got to come up and he's got to hit. That's all he does. He's not much of a fielder. He's got to come up and he's got to hit.
Yeah, you guys hit on the Cardinals pretty well there. Okay, now let's jump over to the American League East, where we have a tie on the top of this division at 70-49 between the Orioles and the Yankees. You get the Red Sox at 7.5 games back, the Rays at 10.5 games back, Blue Jays at 15.5. But if you look at the wild card race, the Red Sox are 3 games back. The Rays are right on the periphery, 5.5 games back. It's probably about as far back as we could probably get talking here. But we'll start with the Orioles. David, what do you think the Orioles have to do to beat the Yankees and get this number 1 seed here in the American League?
I like the Orioles to do this, but to keep it to get ahead of the Yankees to actually solidify themselves, I think they need more contribution from guys down in the lineup, right? And they need more contribution from guys at the back end of the starting rotation. Not every day that Corbin Burns and Zach Eflin can pitch, right? And Grayson's hurt. Got to have some help from the back end there, and I don't think I think the Orioles and the Yankees have kind of the same problem where the back end of their rotation, back end of their lineup is it's without that oomph. But I think the Orioles have the slight edge, especially in the lineup where you've got guys like Ryan Mountcastle and Cedric Mullins, right? Guys who have some pedigree in terms of being able to play at a above average level at the major league level for a long extended period of time and carry the team. Those guys have got to step up down the stretch here. If I'm picking the Orioles against the Yankees, I've got to see some more from the back end of that lineup. Got to see some more from the back end of that rotation, and I got to see Grayson back soon.
Yeah, I'm with you, David. Those are good points, especially with Grayson Rodriguez. Hopefully, that it looks like he might come back in the middle of September. So, how healthy will he be? Will he be 100%? We'll see. That's a big one. Mine was just, they need some guys in the bullpen to step up. They need one more reliever, I think. I mean, are you going to get good Kimbrel or bad Kimbrel? Because on the season, his numbers aren't that bad. I mean, he's got a 3.35 ERA, a 3.55 FIP. He's still striking out 34% of the batters he faces, but he's blown a lot of saves and has just 3.35 ERAs and a dominant back end of the bullpen closer like he once was. And when you're a playoff team, you need a guy like that. So can Kimbrel be good Kimbrel? Because there's a world where he goes on a stretch where he's vintage Kimbrel for 3 weeks and runs through the playoffs. But there's also a world where he's gets blown up like he did in the playoffs last year and and a couple times in his career. So I think that's a big one. And then maybe another guy stepping up in that bullpen, whether it's Cionel Perez or Danny Colombe, or you look at maybe Sir Anthony Dominguez, who came over. He's obviously had some years where he's been really good. Yenier Cano's another one that was really good last year that has a good ERA, but the peripherals haven't been great. Can he be that guy? They just need a little bit of help from that bullpen, and if they get that, then I like the rotation. Even with if Grayson Rodriguez comes back, I like the rotation with Burns, Rodriguez, Suarez. I think that's good. And Zach Eflin. And then you look at their lineup. I still like their lineup. I mean, Jackson Holiday, by the way, has been crushing it since coming back up. That's another big key for them. If he can continue to do that, that just adds another big time bat in the lineup because he's got the talent to carry a team.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if he's able to continue that. But definitely the bullpen for me.
Yeah, Matt took literally both my things. Mine was the bullpen with the roller coaster that is Craig Kimbrel at the back end. They need to figure something out there, and the Jackson Holiday. They need, like, he's been really good. They just need him to continue doing that. I guess if there's anything else that I could throw on, it's that get Kobe Mayo rolling. It's his first little bit in the major leagues. He struggled, but give him the runway at third. See what you got. And if he takes off, then there you go heading into the postseason. If not, you're most likely going to get Jordan Westbrook back anyways. But it doesn't hurt to have another guy who, if he gets it rolling there, we know he has the pedigree to do it as a prospect. So just give him the time in the majors and see if he's going to sink or swim this year. That would be my only other thing there. Okay, so let's talk about the Yankees, who, like I mentioned, they're tied with the Orioles here for the best record. Matt, what do you think the Yankees need here to beat the Orioles?
Well, I think I like the Yankees to get it done. I think that they're a little bit more complete than the Orioles. I think the Yankees pitching staff, the starting rotation is a little bit deeper, and and with Garrett Cole still struggling a little bit, they're still performing a little bit better in that rotation right now. But big thing for me is, you got your lineup, and there's been so much talk this year about their lineup depth. And you've got you've got the MVP, at the top of your lineup with Aaron Judge. You got Juan Soto, who's been incredible this year as well, who is not that far off from being like an MVP. I mean, in most years, Juan Soto would probably be winning the MVP race right now. He's got a 186 WRC plus, but he's 1.5 wins above replacement behind his teammate. So Aaron Judge has been incredible. But the big thing for me is just beyond those two guys, who is going to be the guy? And I have two of them that right now are Jazz Chisholm, who they traded for at the deadline. Since coming over, he's got a 190 WRC plus. And the other guy is Anthony Volpe. And I don't know if you remember, but Anthony Volpe in the first 2 months was very, very was very, very good at the plate. He had a 120, 125 WRC plus those first couple months, and then he just had a horrible stretch. He was unplayable at the plate for about 2 months. But in the second half, Anthony Volpe's been back to being pretty good. He's got a 117 WRC plus in the second half. He's playing really good defense at shortstop. He's a great base runner. If he can continue that, and Jazz Chisholm can continue to be the guy he's been since he came over, that adds two guys to their lineup who are pretty solid. Now you've got four. You throw in maybe Austin Wells, who's been good all year. You throw in maybe Giancarlo Stanton, who's been pretty good this year at the plate, and you've got 5 or 6 guys you feel pretty decent about. So, I think that you definitely need some of that depth, and that Volpe and Jazz are kind of the keys to having that.
Yeah, mine is super simple here. Super simple, super quick. Give me Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole down the stretch. If the Yankees want to beat the Orioles, it's got to come from the top, right? They've had the roster, especially the rotation, held down by Luis Hill, by Nestor Cortez, Clark Schmidt, Carlos Rodon, who has been okay. Like, it's been all held down. We're waiting for Garrett Cole to come back. That's reigning Cy Young winner. Garrett Cole's got to come in. He's got to be great, right? Sitting on a 4.70 ERA right now. It's given up a few more home runs than he has in years past. The ground ball rate's way down. Garrett Cole has got to be in here, striking guys out, not walking anybody, where the occasional homer doesn't bite him, and down the stretch he's got to be great. And if that doesn't happen, I do worry that the Yankees won't pass the Orioles and will be playing in that wild card round where anything can happen. And you could be seeing Aaron Judge and Juan Soto home early this offseason just because they need. I don't think they have the lineup depth to compete with the Orioles. That's why I mentioned the Orioles is the lineup depth. For the Yankees, they've got to have Garrett Cole back at the head of this rotation. It pushes everything back. And then in the playoffs, if you got elite Garrett Cole, I mean, you pencil that one in as a win. But he's got to be good, and that's the key for me for the Yankees. Is it all revolves around Garrett Cole.
Yeah, I think a lot to me it revolves around the bullpen. You got to get, like, if you look at the season-long numbers for Clay Holmes, it looks fine, but he's been really rocky, and even the peripherals don't seem like it. But I've been watching a lot of the Yankees recently, especially because Jazz has been so fun to watch, and we called that like before the deadline happened that should be a thing. But Holmes has been like really close to blowing a few saves. So they need him to get locked down, and they just need that rest of that bullpen to kind of help him, continue being the way they are, but also get their back end guys playing the way they should be, pitching the way they should be. Because, like you mentioned, that rotation, it's a little bit of a question mark right now with Cole, with the other guys. You don't know how they're going to fare going into October. You got to have a strong bullpen behind them anyways. So I think you just got to get that figured out. But that's pretty much the only thing I can harp on with the Yankees right now because they've been playing good baseball. Okay, so let's talk about the Boston Red Sox now. I mentioned 7.5 games back of the division, but they're only 4 games out of the wild card, or 3 games out of the wild card at the moment, behind the Mariners. So only one team, or Mariners and the Royals. So a couple teams to jump there. David, what do you think the Red Sox have to do to be able to jump those and get into that wild card spot?
They need to avoid unnecessary suspensions to start.
Well, yeah, that is
I
something.
would start there, and then I would move to we need first half Cutter Crawford. Cutter Crawford's down to a 4.07 ERA. Remember when he was leading the league in an ERA at the beginning of the year? We need first half Cutter Crawford. Their starting rotation had been the kind of the strength of this team, and you're seeing some really a big time breakout from Tanner Houck. He does look the part, but I would venture to an assumption that they really would like to have someone in there helping him. Nick Pavetta's kind of been that guy for them, but Nick Pavetta is at least a veteran, someone who has a lot of nasty stuff and is someone you trust. Cutter Crawford was suppressing the contact. He was doing a good job early in the season of preventing runs, and lately he has not been there in terms of run prevention. So my guy would be Cutter Crawford, trying to get him working, and then obviously, yeah, your best player shouldn't be earning himself any suspensions. I would hope that they could avoid that the rest of the way too.
Yeah, David, I'm on the same page with you. I just kind of said the rotation in general because every single one of those guys, they had Tanner Houck, Nick Pavetta, Cutter Crawford, and Brian Bayo pitching extremely well for the first few months of the season, and every single one of them's fallen off. I mean, Tanner Houck still having a great year, but he had late around the All Star break, he had like a 2 ERA, and the peripherals were backing that up, and those really come back to earth a little bit. I mean, he's still got a great numbers on the season, but Nick Pavetta, he's now got a 4.44 ERA. Um, that's pretty rough. And part of this too is, I mean, they're fit, and they're underperforming their xFIP by a lot. The defense for this team has been horrible. The minus 38 defensive value on Fangraphs as a team is nuts. So that's another thing that they gotta figure out. But I like their bullpen, and I think that they just need these guys. If they can find a way to have some of these guys start pitching like they did in the first half again, they might be able to make a run here. They got about 32% playoff odds on Fangraphs. So that's just that they're going to have to figure out how to pitch the rest of the season, and can that rotation hold up?
Yeah, mine's really quick and simple. Get Tristan Casas healthy.
That's another one, yeah.
Changes the dynamic of that team when he's there. Okay, let's talk about the Tampa Bay Rays real quick. 5.5 games back. They have to jump, 3 teams to get there. On the lower side of playoff probability here. But David, what do you think the Rays need to do if they want a chance to get in this race again?
Go back to the deadline and not trade away some of your best players. That's what I'm thinking. I think the Rays are not going to make it. And not necessarily, the Rays are the type of team that can still make it happen. I'll go ahead and say, if they call up Junior Caminero once he gets healthy here in September, maybe he makes some noise, right? That's a top prospect that can kind of step in there, play corner infield, maybe corner outfield, DH some. Hope that Christopher Morel gets to those expected numbers everybody wants to talk about, but I don't trust this Rays team. They traded away a lot of pieces, went with a lot of youth. They've got guys coming back from injury like Drew Rasmussen, who's not going to be able to start. Like in another year, I could see it where they made some sell-ish moves and then still made it. But I just don't feel like with the wild card so competitive that this team is going to get anywhere close. I think they'll just end up 5 to 10 games out at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm with you, David. I just said, can the young guys make magic happen? I mean, they're a they might have some of that, we got nothing to lose mentality, and they got some talented young guys there, like you mentioned, Junior Caminero, Christopher Morel. Their farm system has been pretty stacked here over the last couple of years, and it just got better at the deadline. So I think that if you're the Rays, just can your young guys make magic? Can you do Rays things too, where you figure out a way to win when nobody expects you to? But they're pretty far out. They've only got about 6% playoff odds, and I would be surprised if they really are a factor here for the last couple of months.
Yeah, mine is, can the offense just get anything going in the right direction? Because their pitching staff has been good. You got Taj Bradley, you got Zach Littell's been that. They just got Jeffrey Springs back. David mentioned Drew Rasmussen. Shane Bass looked decent in his limited time too. And their bullpen has been really good. I mean, They have Edwin Uceta, who has like a 1 ERA for some. Like that's just if that's not the most Rays thing ever, then I don't know what is. They have a good bullpen though. Rotations, been pretty good. It's just can the offense do enough to pick up the slack there, especially with those guys they traded in Randy and then Isaac Paredes and stuff like that. So low probability, but it's the Rays. You just never count them out. Who knows? We're going to be looking like fools here if we do coming at the end of the season. But okay, let's jump over to the American League Central now, where we have the Cleveland Guardians leading this at 69-49. The Minnesota Twins 65-52, 3.5 games back, and then the Kansas City Royals 65-53, 4 games out. Then the Tigers are falling back 13.5 games back, and then the White Sox are really close behind them, 41.5 games back.
Good Lord.
Yeah, they are
That is
28-91 as we sit here right now. A negative 251 run differential.
They've got a real shot to beat the Tigers' loss record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's I saw who said something earlier. I think it was Heyman said something about like how they would have to go the rest of the year. I'm gonna try and find that. Would need to go 15-28 over the final 43 games to avoid at least tying the 92 Mets. Their best 43 game stretch this year. Mind you, I just said they have to go 15-28. Their best 43 game stretch, 14-29.
Fangraphs has the White Sox projected at 117 losses.
How do you have them projected at 117?
We have to throw in there they hired Grady Sizemore.
Yeah.
I think that's really
cool. Yeah.
That's cool as hell for Grady. I feel so bad for him, man. I feel so bad for him.
He got a managerial job in baseball when he wasn't even like doing anything. So
yeah.
Did you see his interview after his first game? We'll dunk it on the White Sox real quick, but we'll get back to everything else. He was just like, yeah, felt really good. The fans brought a lot of energy today. And I'm like, buddy,
he might not know.
Yeah. You
Does
had
he
like
know?
3,000 fans in the stadium. I can almost guarantee you there was no energy to be had there.
What was it the first game? His first game against the A's or the Cubs? Because it was early in the week. Oh, let's score a run.
I think it was the A's. I want to say it was against the A's still.
Cubs tied the game. We'll take that.
But anyways. Okay, so let's talk about the Guardians now. Like I mentioned, they're 3.5 games up here in the division. So what do the Guardians have to do to continue holding on to this division as the Twins are making a push here? We'll start with David.
Yeah, so my team's playing the Guardians right now. I'm getting a really good look at them, and the whole talk going in was, man, the Guardians' rotation's bad. You can't let it get to their bullpen. Bullpen's really good. The Cubs have scored more runs off the bullpen than the starter today. So I will say that Clase and Gaddis did not pitch today, but I think that the Guardians they're not deep enough. And if there's a team that's currently leading the division that I feel like will fall out, it is this Guardians team. Now, that's not to say this Guardians team is not a good team, right? They went out and got Lane Thomas and who was the other pitcher they got to help in the rotation? Alex Cobb. They went out and got 2 guys, right? Lane Thomas, Alex Cobb. I feel like they did not do enough. And so I said the Rays need to go back in time and not trade those guys. I think the Guardians need to go back in time and make another trade and get another starting pitcher in this group. It's just not going. I just don't think it's going to be deep enough in order to, create success going into the playoffs, and then especially in the playoffs. This rotation is not a group that strikes fear into the heart of anyone. And while I really like Stephen Kwan, I think that guy might be on steroids. He had another home run today. He's got like 13 now. It's wild. He's pretty much their best offensive player, he and Jose Ramirez. And, the rest of this lineup, a little bit weak. Johnsky Knoll hit 2 home runs today. Damien already said he didn't know who that was. That's the right fielder right now. Prospect guy, hit like 30 home runs in AAA last year. They need heroics from guys like that. And you can't really rely on that if you're going to be a big time playoff team. And so Guardians, in my opinion, need that starting rotation to stay shored up. And I don't trust it.
Yeah, and I'll go further, David, on what you just said. I agree with you 100%. I got 2 names, Logan Allen and Tristan McKenzie. Those guys have been horrible this year, and especially in Tristan McKenzie's case, they have a pedigree of being, at least at one point, pretty good big leaguers, and they're not old. So they're both 25, 26 years old, and they really need to pick it up. And if they don't pick it up, I mean, maybe Alex Cobb can have hit the form he had last year. He's only made one start. It was bad, but it was just one start for them so far. So maybe Alex Cobb can figure it out. And Tanner Bybee's been pretty good. So, you got him, and maybe if Cobb figures it out, you can piece together enough with that bullpen to win some games in the postseason. But I think they've got to have Logan Allen or Tristan McKenzie, one of the two, step up and be at least a decent arm to bridge to their bullpen at some point, because you can't win with just one starting pitcher. Oh, Gavin Williams is another name too that has just come back, and he's been pretty solid. So maybe he can help with that too. But
yeah, sorry, I got distracted there for a minute. Shohei just hit one like over the up left center field bullpens in Milwaukee.
It's
just listen, okay.
You get to watch him. You have to deal with the making fun of
you don't expect the left-hander to hit the ball there. Okay, that's what I was laughing at.
I expect everything from Shohei.
Yeah. But Matt mentioned it. Mine I had was you need to get Tristan McKenzie healthy. I didn't even if it was Logan Williams. I think Tristan McKenzie, when he's on, he's a really good pitcher. If you have a top three of McKenzie, Bybee, and Gavin Williams going into the playoffs, I think you feel decent, especially with the way that bullpen is. The bullpen's really good. Obviously, they had a blow up today, but I just feel their starting pitching's not that great right now. And their offense, they have some guys who are playing well, some guys that aren't. That's just kind of typical Guardians baseball. Like, they'll have a few guys that can do some damage. The rest of it's just pretty meh. And then they win with pitching, and their pitching just isn't good this year, healthy. So you need to get McKenzie. Really, that's the one you need to get back and play well. Okay, so let's talk about the Minnesota Twins, who are 65 and 52. They are in the that last wild card spot by a half game right now, over the Kansas City Royals here. So what do the Twins have to do to solidify their wild card standing or make a run at the Guardians here, Matt?
So my key for the Twins is that they have a big three. And their big three is Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, and Royce Lewis. And they also have good depth around those guys. Willie Castro's been good. Carlos Santana's been really good this year. Ryan Jeffers, Jose Moreno, they've got a bunch of guys that have been good. But those three guys all are very, very good, like all-star, superstar caliber players, MVP caliber players maybe. But none of them are ever healthy at the same time. If those three guys can be healthy at the same time, I think this team could win the World Series. I really do. This team has a really good pitching rotation. They've got good lineup depth. They've got a pretty good bullpen with a back end of the bullpen arm in Joan Duran, who's very, very good. But they need for those three guys to be healthy at the same time, and I don't know that that's going to happen. But if they are, this is going to be a very dangerous team. I really like what they have. But, right now Correa is the one that's out. It sounds like he might be able to come back in a couple weeks. It sounds like he's close to getting on a rehab assignment. But, at the same time, you got to keep Buxton out there, who that's been the question mark with him his entire career. But he's been awesome this year when he's when he's been healthy. And then, Royce Lewis as well. When he's been out there, he's been amazing. So if those three guys are healthy, this is a dangerous team.
Yeah, it's keep Royce healthy. That's the key. Royce has a 178 WRC plus after homering today on the season. This is an MVP candidate if that guy wasn't made of glass. So my hope is that Royce can stay healthy through a postseason run, and like Matt said, right, keep those stars healthy. This is a very health dependent team, oddly enough. So the rotation's pretty decent. Pablo Lopez has been great. Bullpen's they pulled Joan Duran out of closing. Like, if you got a guy who throws 104 with a 100-mile-an-hour splinter and he's not your best reliever, like, you're doing something right. So the Twins have a good team. I think if they can keep Royce healthy, that's kind of I think that's the key to this playoff success cog.
Yeah, mine is you got to figure out Joe Ryan just got injured. You got to figure out when if he's going to be able to be back, when he's going to be back, and what what you need to do to kind of help supplement around that for the moment. They're calling up Zebby Matthews, who's one of their top prospects, to make the start for them tomorrow. But, Bailey Ober's been decent. Pablo Lopez, he's not nearly been as bad as his ERA is saying. He's got like a 4.74 ERA, but a 3.83 FIP and a 3.32 xFIP and a 3.50 expected ERA. Like, I think he's been fine. You mentioned the Correa injury. That's obviously a thing. But one guy I want to give a shout out to on this team is Matt Wallner. If you guys haven't seen what Matt Wallner's been doing over his past 35 games, 181 WRC plus. He has 7 homers, 19 RBIs. He's striking out a lot. I mean,
He's very Joey Gallo. I just watched him last week.
Very Joey Gallo-ish, but he's been crushing right now. And with Correa being out, that's been a big thing. So a big help. So that shout out to Matt Wallner for what you're doing so far before it eventually turns the wrong direction. But okay, let's talk about the Kansas City Royals now. They are, like I mentioned, they're a half game back of the Minnesota Twins for that last wild card spot, 4 games back in the division. They could easily make a run here too. So, David, what do you think that the Royals need to do or continue doing to solidify a wild card spot here?
Yeah, the Royals need somebody to step up and get to helping Bobby. This offense really is just a Bobby Witt Jr. show. And the question is, can the Royals find someone else to get in there and help him out, right? I mean, this is like a team that's showing as a above league average, 13th in major leagues in WAR type of offense with a total offensive value on Fangraphs of 1.1, right? Like they have ridden Bobby Witt Jr. I think he's like half their value right now, and ultimately, Vinny Pasquantino's driven him in a lot. Got a lot of RBI specifically, but Vinny's only been in like a 110 WRC plus hitter. Salvi just has not had that same level of impact. Freddie Fermin's been pretty offensively strong. Like weirdly, I really wasn't expecting to look into that and see, a guy, sitting at like 110, 120 WRC plus. But again, they need Michael Garcia is like 73 WRC plus this year. They've got to have somebody step up. Who is it? I don't know. Maybe it's Paul DeJong. Maybe it's, Hunter Renfroe getting into a power stretch. Maybe it's Vinny Pasquantino, but they just need somebody.
Yeah, David, I'm with you. I had just Vinny Pasquantino, MJ Melendez, and Michael Garcia are all 3 players who at times have shown flashes over the past couple of years. They're especially Vinny Pasquantino. He's got the pedigree of a guy who's expected to be like a really good major league hitter, not just a solid major league hitter. They need one of these guys to step up and really contribute. I mean, Vinny Pasquantino's got a 108 WRC plus. It's not like he's been bad, but he's a more talented hitter than that, I think, and he's a guy that I think could have a 125, 130 WRC plus, and then maybe MJ Melendez figures it out or something. I mean, I definitely think that there's a world where this team kind of gets going with one other guy, and it really helps them. And one last thing for the Royals shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be 65 and 55 or in 53 right now. It's just a shout out to them for having just an awesome year. That was kind of unexpected. The pitching rotation's been great. So, just for the Royals to be in a position where they've got 62% playoff odds here in the middle of August is pretty remarkable. So whatever happens the rest of the season, this season's got to be considered a success for them. They've shown a lot of growth this year.
Hey, I will say I had them finishing second in this division. David
You're
had them finishing
wrong,
third, but I said them finishing second. They're only a half game back of it. All right, give me some respect here. But like you guys were mentioning, talking about Vinny Pasquantino, since the All-Star break, 150 WRC plus, batting 330, 568 slugging. He's starting to show that little bit of that power that we expected him to. Like, he's been legitimately taking that next step since the All-Star break. If he can keep that up, that's massive. That's exactly what you guys are talking about needing. Salvi's been decent, but that's really it. It's those 3. I mean, Freddie Fermin's been okay as well. I mean, he's an above league average bat, but you need other guys to step up, like you mentioned, MJ Melendez and the others, Michael Garcia around there too. But really, I think the thing for me is just keep playing solid baseball. I mean, their pitching has been decent. They're back into that bullpen, getting Lucas Urseg in there, getting Hunter Harvey, he's hurt right now. But I think you just continue playing with those guys, get a solid pitching staff there, allow those guys to carry you on the offensive side for now, and just hope that everything can line up to make a little bit of a run here. Like Matt said, I had them finishing second. I really believed in them here. I think this is a little bit higher than I was expecting at the moment. I kind of expected the American League Central to be a little bit worse, but they can easily make a run for that, given everything they've had so far this year. And if the Guardians do continue struggling, it's not out of the question. But let's jump over to the American League West now, where we're going to talk about the Houston Astros and Seattle Mariners. They are tied for the division lead right now. It's 62-55 for the Astros, 63-56 for the Mariners there. The Rangers are 7.5 games back. The Angels are 10.5 games back. And then the Oakland Athletics are only 13 games back. I think that's a lot better than we were probably expecting coming into this year. But really the two teams to talk about here are the Astros and the Mariners. So let's talk about the Astros to begin with. What do they need, Matt, in your eyes, to win this division, pull away from the Mariners, and just end up doing that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple holes on this team. I think you definitely look at first base as one that's been a mess all year. But I think that you look at the rotation, and can the rotation hold it together, stay healthy? They made a nice trade to get, well, in a vacuum, it probably wasn't a nice trade, but they got a pretty good piece in Yusei Kikuchi, even though they overpaid for him, who could really help them out. He's had a couple good starts in his first couple appearances here for the Astros. Hunter Brown's turned it around after a really rough start to the year, and Framber Valdez has been Framber Valdez. He's been really solid. Low an ERA below 3.5 yet again. He did miss a few starts, but I think they need like Ronel Blanco and Spencer Arrighetti to keep it together. I don't know if Verlander's around right now.
He's coming back. He's coming back.
He's been in and out of the lineup. He has not been good when he's pitched though. He's 41 years old. If you could get something out of him, that would be a bonus. But yeah, it's just the rotation. You've got some guys in there that aren't household names. It's not the same guys we've seen from the Astros for the last several years, and I think they just need Hunter Brown to continue the step forward, Framber Valdez to continue doing what he does. I don't worry too much about him, but Ronel Blanco and is another guy that just you're not sure what you're going to get from him. His peripherals are a pretty good bit behind his ERA, so I think he could be in for a little bit of regression, but I think it's just that rotation. Everything else, the bullpen's finally kind of come together over the last couple months. It's been a lot better, and the lineup is very, very good when they're all healthy. I think, is Kyle Tucker back yet?
He is not. That was going to be my point.
Yeah.
Super weird.
Yeah, that is weird, but it sounds like he's somewhat close-ish. He's doing baseball activities, so But even without him, I mean, the lineup is still good. I mean, Yordan Alvarez has been Yordan Alvarez, and Jose Altuve's had a really good year. But Alex Bregman's turned it around, and he's back to being Alex Bregman. So I think it's just the pitching staff, the starting rotation, holding it together a little bit.
Yeah, mine is Kyle Tucker. Getting Kyle Tucker back's the key, I think, to this Astros team. He's still second on the team in wins above replacement after only playing 60 games. So it kind of tells you how big of a season he started out. He was kind of carrying this team when everyone else was slumping or hurt, and now they've kind of pulled it together without him. So in my mind, getting Kyle Tucker back is I think the game changer for the Houston Astros.
Yeah, Tucker's a great player. I think mine's just, Matt kind of mentioned it. What can the pitching staff continue to keep this up, and what Justin Verlander do you get? Did you get the Verlander who can still be a savvy vet, still give you solid stuff? Or are you giving the Verlander who's giving you a 5 ERA this year? Getting him back and putting him alongside Hunter Brown, who's legitimately turned into a good, solid MLB pitcher now. Framber Valdez, I think you get those three, and then you just get whatever you get from Rodel Blanco or Spencer Arrighetti or Kikuchi. I think that's kind of the Astros, what their view should be, is what kind of pitching staff do we got together, because their offense is going to score runs, especially when they get Kyle Tucker back. Okay, so let's jump to the Seattle Mariners now. Will be the last team we talk about. They are 2.5 games back of the wild card spot right now. Like I mentioned, they are tied for that division lead there. So 2 avenues for them to make the playoffs there. So Matt, what do you think the Mariners need to do to either win the division or jump into that last wild card spot?
Well, I've got just one guy here. I mean, I think the Mariners have been solid. As a whole, their pitching staff is awesome. But Julio Rodriguez, he's the guy that's supposed to carry this offense. He's supposed to be the MVP. A lot of people picked him to win MVP this year. That he's this franchise's version of Bobby Witt or Gunnar Henderson or somebody that a young guy comes up and is able to carry the team. Well, he hasn't done that, and he in the first half he had a 101 WRC plus, which is fine, especially considering the fact that he's a pretty solid. He plays center field, and he can do a lot of different things. And he really had struggled horribly, and then in July he had gotten hot for a couple weeks, and then he got hurt. He had an ankle injury, and he's just come back for. I think he came back yesterday, or maybe. Yeah, I think it was yesterday, and he had 5 strikeouts, and he went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts in his first game back. But if Julio Rodriguez can turn it around and have a really good couple of months here to close the season, that's going to be a big deal for this team. The offense has kind of been the weak point for them. But when your best bat has just not been good, like this is a guy that should have a 130, 140 WRC plus. You're missing a lot out of that. And, the rest of their lineup, especially with Randy Arozarena having come over, he's been really good for them. It's improved some. You just got to get Julio Rodriguez going. And then, if you get that, I think this team has a chance to challenge the Astros. I don't think they're going to pass the Astros, but I think they got a good shot at making the playoffs. And I think they've got a chance to touch the Astros here still. I guess technically they're tied with them right now, but I believe in the Astros a little bit more going forward this year, but we'll see what happens here. I think it's going to be a really interesting battle, as it was last year. It was a really interesting battle in this division last year as well.
What's wild is that the Seattle Mariners have the fewest runs allowed of any team in baseball by like 30 runs or something. Like
just...
this is an incredibly excellent pitching team. I have very little complaints there. It's just everything Matt said. Get this offense going. Randy needs to, continue to be Randy and push this team forward. And they've moved on from Ty France. They've made some big swings. They need those swings to work, and they need Julio to get back. Right. This is an offensive issue team. I would say they really need JP Crawford to get back on what he was doing last year. I think they gave him an extension too, and he has not played very well this season, and that's certainly been a disappointment and kind of a crutch that they have not been able to overcome. He's in 89 WRC plus, sub 200 or sub 300 on base when he was a guy who was like 380 on base last year.
Yeah, Matt mentioned they need to get their franchise player, playing very well. I argue that Victor Robles has been playing really well.
Oh yeah, he has.
Got an extension today.
He did.
So that's fun. That's just another thing. But absolutely, it's Julio Rodriguez. He needs to be the guy to come in and make the splash for this offense. If you look at their offensive numbers, 29th in baseball on average, 25th in baseball on on-base percentage, 28th in baseball on OPS, 27th in runs. They are 11th in homers and 11th in stolen bases, but it's everything else they don't do well. And on the flip side, David mentioned how good their pitching has been. Just their starting pitchers, first in ERA, first in WHIP, first in walks per 9, first in hits per 9, second in homers per 9. They're 18th in Ks per 9, but still they also have like 79 quality starts or something this year.
Nice.
From starting. That is insane. It's literally all about this offense. You need it to be Randy and J-Rod helping continue to lead that. And you got to figure out, can we figure out what the heck's going on with Jorge Polanco? Why he's hitting 211 with a 292 on base? Figure something out with that too. They have the pieces. They just need them to get healthy, and then they need to go on the run there because the pitching will automatically keep them in games. And I want to see this pitching staff in October because that is going to be absolutely fun seeing Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Bryce Miller, all of them going back to back to back to back. That's just insane. And even Brian Wu. I didn't even mention Brian Wu.
Yeah, you mentioned Jorge Polanco, and I'm pretty sure second half of the season, 145 WRC plus after being a 68 in the first half. So maybe he is starting to get going a little bit. He's definitely better than he was.
We've heard it from multiple people that Seattle is a hard place to hit, and maybe the batter's eye there isn't the greatest. Maybe he's starting to figure out something there. So
yeah, well, Power is also just suppressed there by the air. I mean,
true.
the marine layer.
Yeah, for sure. So anyways, that's going to basically give us a full standings update, where teams are at, what the wild card races are looking like, and what we think each team needs to do to get into those spots. But before we wrap it up, anything that you guys want to hit on real quick?
I want to add one more thought on the AL West.
Okay.
And there's a team that we did not talk about in this entire episode that is pretty prolific, and that would be that the defending world champion Texas Rangers
Yeah.
are entirely out of the playoff race right now. They're 55
And 63.
and 63. They have now it's not 0%, but they have a 2% playoff odds on Fangraphs, and they are 2.5 games better than the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Yeah.
So there's a legitimate chance the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, who, by the way, have not had Mike Trout or Anthony Rendon for most of the season. And Mike Trout's not coming back, and I think Anthony Rendon actually didn't come back, shockingly. There's a chance the Angels pass the Rangers before the end of the season. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Rangers will play a little bit better. They're probably getting a little bit healthier in the rotation, but just remarkable that the defending World Series champion are 2.5 games above the laughing stock of baseball that's not named the White Sox, and they're only 5.5 games up on the A's. So, it's pretty crazy how poor the Ranger season has gone. But that was the last one I wanted to add.
The Rangers fit the problems that we outlined in the preseason stuff. It was, can they buoy in order to get DeGrom back? DeGrom's throwing now. He should be back for September, but it's like we said originally, if the team isn't able to buoy before they get those guys back, then it will be a bad season for the Rangers, and it has been. I'll throw that, speaking of the Angels, I'll throw that my last shout is that Christian Moore's already got like 6 home runs in Double-A for the Angels. He's going to be up before September.
He's going to carry the Angels to a miraculous division third place finish.
I don't know. Anyways, alrighty, well, that will wrap up today's show of the Bat Flip podcast. And Matt and I will see you back next week. David sucks.